morning. My name's Kate Dahlstedt, and I identify as female. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at the UU, and I welcome you, old friends and new, young and old, in the Zoom and in the sanctuary. You're an essential part of our celebration today, and whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. We are grateful to be in community with you. And this morning, I'm going to take 1 second to do something different. I'm just going to do this. It's in my heart. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. I'm so glad to be here. I hope you are too.
Good morning. My name is Allison Bull. I use she, her pronouns, and I am today's worship associate. This morning, our guest is Reverend Erica Barron. Reverend Barron is a congregational consultant for the New England region of the UUA, specifically assigned to our congregation to provide us support when needed. And one of her roles is supporting congregations during times of ministerial transition. So I'm so glad that she can be here with us today to offer us time to reflect on this time of change within our congregation. And also, an interesting tidbit, she belonged and was a member of our congregation while attending UMass from 1999 to 2003, so you might recognize her.
It is really great to be with you this morning. Our opening words are by Eric Walker Wickstrom. Here today, in this place and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear, may we hear so that we can feel, may we feel so that we can know, and may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this time together light our way. I invite you to say the chalice lighting words with me. We light this flame to invite a world of peace where we heal the wounds, where we share what we have with one another, where justice is another word for relationship, and we listen for what love has to say. And I invite you to rise in body, spirit, heart, and voice to sing our first hymn, Woyaya, on the screen, and number 1020 in the teal hymnal. All right, the pictures to our Time for All Ages this morning are going to be up on our screen, but you're also welcome to come closer if you would like. All right, so here we go. I don't know that it happened this way, but I do know that it's true that long ago and far away, or more likely, recently and quite nearby, high up in the mountains on a black cherry tree, an egg was laid on a leaf. And in the light of the full moon, out of that egg hatched a little brownish caterpillar with white markings that would look to any bird who might chance by, perhaps like bird droppings. And the caterpillar's name was Homer. Homer looked around in surprise and wonder to find himself alive in the world. "Better eat your egg casing, young friend," said a black spiky caterpillar. That one. Nearby, Homer did just that and then turned to look at his new friend. "Welcome to the world," said the other caterpillar, whose name was Alex. "It's delicious here. Try some of this leaf." Together, the two caterpillars munched on leaves that spring through rain and sun, sunrises and sunsets. They laughed together at the antics of baby birds, and they hid together under leaves that the black spiky caterpillar had collected so that parent birds could not catch them. Alex taught Homer all he needed to know about life on a leaf: how to stay safe, how to munch, how to enjoy the feeling of the wind stirring the tree and the sun slowly warming the mountains each morning. And together they gazed each night up at the beautiful moon. But one day, the black spiky caterpillar started doing something totally new and different. "What are you doing?" asked Homer, as Alex carefully put down silk on the underside of a twig in the newest collection of leaves and began hanging upside down. "Making a chrysalis," said Alex. "A what?" "You'll see." And over the next couple of days, in the shelter of the leaves, the spiky black caterpillar shifted and shed its skin and became that, a strange lumpy brown thing, hanging there, not making any conversation. What could this mean? For a week, Homer munched quietly by himself, watching the strange brown hanging thing that used to be his friend, wondering and worrying as the strange lumpy brown thing shifted in color and size and pattern. And then, one day, out of the strange lumpy brown chrysalis pushed an even stranger new creature. That one. Homer watched as this new creature, it is a butterfly, you're right, pumped blood into its black and white and bright orange wings. Wings? And unfurled a strange new mouth? "What?" cried Homer. "Who?" The new creature turned to look at him. "Oh, little friend," it said. "It's still me, Alex, the one you laughed and hid and munched leaves and watched the moon with. But now I'm a butterfly, exactly like you said. An admiral butterfly, to be specific," Alex said proudly. "But you changed," cried Homer. "You were as constant as the moon, and now you have changed." Alex smiled gently. "Oh, friend," they said, "we're supposed to change. Why, even the moon is different night to night. Sometimes we see all of it, sometimes only a sliver, and sometimes we can't see it at all." "But I don't want to change," lamented Homer, scared and sad. "Change is part of who we are," said the butterfly, who was Alex, "and now our friendship must change too. I must fly away in search of flowers and other butterflies, and eventually I will fly south to stay warm in the winter. You must continue to eat and grow and stay safe from the birds, but you will change too. Just remember, you are loved, and whatever your body does, you are a beautiful friend, and I am glad I know you." And with that, Alex took to the sky. All that summer, Homer, the little brown caterpillar, ate and grew and hid and watched the moon, which did indeed look a little different every night. Homer became a bigger brown caterpillar. His white splotch turned into two little eye shapes, so he looked like a fearsome little snake, and no birds ate him. Day by day, the seasons moved toward autumn. And finally, Homer found his own safe spot to hang upside down and shifted into a chrysalis. This was scary, but Homer remembered his friend and was brave. All winter, the chrysalis hung there, safe and still. In the spring, Homer felt himself stir, felt his new body shift once again, and wiggled free to find himself with a new mouth and a different shape, and wings. There he is. Wings that were yellow and black and blue and orange and glorious. "Oh my," said Homer, the Appalachian tiger swallowtail, gazing at himself in wonder and delight. And then he took to the sky, up toward the bright moon, bold as a bird, up the broad sweep of Spruce Knob. The end. Ken, can you tell us what's happening in elementary religious education today?
Today we're going to keep using the environmental theme for our classes today, and the smaller kids will be planting seeds or making little bags with seeds in them, and the older kids will be working with the food web and creating a food web in their classroom.
Sounds fun.
All right, everybody that's coming down.
And we are, while you all go downstairs, we're going to sing number 295 in the Gray Hymnal, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. You're so cute. Oh my goodness.
Sing out praises for the journey.
today comes from the book Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And in the book, the main character, whose name is Lauren Olamina, creates a new religion based on her insight that the only lasting truth is change. And so throughout the book, there are snippets of the scripture that Lauren is writing to go with her new religion. And so our reading today is taken from that fictional scripture. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. All successful life is adaptable, opportunistic, tenacious, interconnected, and fecund. Understand this. Use it. Shape God. Chaos is God's most dangerous face, amorphous, roiling, hungry. Shape chaos, shape God. Act. Alter the speed or the direction of change. Vary the scope of change. Recombine the seeds of change. Transmute the impact of change. Seize change. Use it. Adapt and grow. God is change, and in the end, God prevails. But meanwhile, kindness eases change, love quiets fear, and a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. So, as you heard, I was a student at UMass from 1999 to 2003. And so yesterday, on my way here, I drove through campus. Now, at the time, I lived in the Northeast dorms, and they are still there. They look pretty much exactly the same. The library, the chapel, the pond, and the fine arts building are also just as I remember them, although the fine arts building has a new name. These buildings at least look the same from the outside. But in and among the various familiar sites are just as many buildings that are either brand new or so thoroughly renovated that I don't recognize them at all. The campus has changed a lot in the last 23 years. The only lasting truth is change, Octavia Butler tells us. Change is around us all the time. We can see it in the new height and maturity of our kids, in the changes that aging brings to ourselves or our loved ones. We can see it in the change of the seasons, and also in the fact that the seasons change in different ways and at different times than they used to. And of course, we ourselves are also changing all the time. A few years ago, I heard an episode of the podcast Hidden Brain in which Shankar Vedantam, the host, was talking to psychologist Daniel Gilbert about some research that Gilbert had done about how much we change over time compared to how much we think we change over time. And the study found that people underestimate how much we ourselves will change. So Gilbert said, "We showed this in our experiment by asking 18-year-olds to tell us how much they would change in the next 10 years, and then asking 28-year-olds to tell us how much they had changed in the last 10 years. In a perfectly rational world, which we do not remotely live in, these numbers would be the same, but they weren't. 18-year-olds thought they would change very little. 28-year-olds reported having changed a lot." Gilbert goes on, "But what's so interesting about this study is that it's also true with 58-year-olds and 68-year-olds. That is, 58-year-olds think, okay, I'm done, I'm cooked. It'll just be me. Maybe a little flabbier, more wrinkles. But I'm the guy I'm going to be. 68-year-olds look back at the last 10 years and say, wow, have I changed? So no matter how much we might think we are done changing, even within ourselves, change is always happening. This, of course, is also true for communities, such as congregations. Every community is always changing. Partly, this is because communities are made up of people, and the mix of who is present is always changing. People come and join, and we change. People move away, and we change. People die, and we change. But also, all of us are changing, so the community made up of all of us is constantly changing. Congregations are, of course, also surrounded and filled with lots of other kinds of changes in the world. New discoveries change the way we understand the world, and that is felt in the congregation. New inventions change the way we interact with the world, and that is felt in the congregation. New insights emerge which change the way we imagine what is possible, and that is felt in the congregation. For just one of the numerous examples, let's think about technology for a moment. When I was a kid in a Unitarian Universalist congregation in the 1980s, the congregation had two ways of getting in touch with each other outside of being in the same space: phone calls and mailing, which would later be called snail mail, but it was the only way to do mail, so we didn't even call it snail mail, we just called it mail. By the time I was here in Amherst as a college student, we had added email to that list, and then email became the primary way we communicated with each other in congregations. Now, in 2026, the task of communicating with the members of a congregation has become exponentially more complicated as the options have expanded. Now, we might communicate still through snail mail, now we call it snail mail, phone calls, but email, but we've also added text, social media, WhatsApp, Signal, and the list goes on and on. Not only that, but every individual person in the congregation has their own preferred way of receiving contact, communication. So leaders of congregations often feel that they are just supposed to magically know what form everyone would like and also be fluent in all of them themselves so that we can tailor communication to everybody, right? Which is challenging. In the fall of 2019, when I began working on the New England regional staff of the UUA, a very, very small number of UU congregations in the whole country offered ways to participate in worship remotely. And then in March of 2020, pretty much all UU congregations stopped meeting in person. And the vast majority of congregations began holding worship online really quickly, like transitioning in a matter of weeks or even days. That transition was brought on by the pandemic that, of course, no one would have chosen. And lots of the changes that come our way are like that. Some of them we do choose, but many of them we do not. And the fact of change itself is inevitable, the only lasting truth. We also usually can't control our initial emotional reaction to change. Depending on the change, we may feel delighted, excited, sad, angry, confused, anxious, or more often, all of those at once. We do have a choice, though, in our longer-term response to change or transition. So religious communities and religious traditions have very different ideas about when and how much and how we should change in response to the changes in the world around us. Some religious communities are committed to changing as little as possible in response to the world. And there are reasons for that. Some of them are even good reasons. But Unitarian Universalism has taken a very different approach. In 1841, Transcendentalist and Unitarian minister Theodore Parker preached a sermon called "The Transient and the Permanent in Christianity." And he argued that in any religious tradition, some things are foundational and permanent, the core or essence of a religion, the things you couldn't change without being a different religion altogether. Other things are transient or changing. These are the cultural assumptions and the relics of the time and place in which the tradition emerged, and they are not essential, so as the world changes, these will fade away. Now, this sermon caused quite a stir at the time because Parker argued that Jesus was not a permanent or foundational part of Christianity. He was the foundational teacher, sure, but he was special because of his unusual integrity to the inner promptings of the divine, and anyone else could practice similar integrity and would be just as special or enlightened. Now, this doesn't sound particularly radical or earth-shattering to UUs of the 21st century, which is a testament to just how much we have embraced change over time. Because at the time, in 1841, this sermon made the Club of Boston area Unitarian ministers seriously consider kicking Theodore Parker out. Partly because they were themselves horrified by this sermon, and also because they worried about how the reputation of all Unitarians would be tainted by association with this wild idea. Luckily, they decided not to kick Parker out, and our faith was allowed to change over time. On the other side of our family tree, Universalist Louis Beals Fisher wrote in his book, Which Way? Universalists are often asked to tell where they stand. The only true answer to give to this question is that we do not stand at all, we move. Peter Mayer, who is best known among Unitarian Universalists because he wrote the lyrics to Blue Boat Home, also wrote a song that does a good job of summarizing the UU approach to change, and the beginning lyrics go like this. In the ever-shifting water of the river of this life, I was swimming, seeking comfort. I was wrestling waves to find a boulder I could cling to, a stone to hold me fast, where I might let the fretful water of this river round me pass. And so I found an anchor, a blessed resting place, a trusty rock I called my savior, for there I would be safe from the river and its dangers. And I proclaimed my rock divine, and I prayed to it protect me, and the rock replied, God is a river. When the Unitarians and the Universalists came together in 1961 to become the Unitarian Universalist Association, our commitment to being willing to change was put into our bylaws. So the bylaws sound boring, but they're actually really important. They have all the important stuff as well as a lot of boring stuff. But specifically in the section that defined our principles as a religious movement, that same section says that we have to revisit that description of our principles every 15 years. So every 15 years, we promised to look at this again, at the foundational central expression of our faith, to decide if it's still what we want to proclaim together, if it still expresses our values. So we said every 15 years. We haven't done it every 15 years. It's been, a long time, and we've done it twice. But actually, we've looked at it more than twice, but we've made major changes to it twice. So the first time was in the 1980s, and the original wording of our principles as the UUA included the phrase, the ideal of brotherhood and cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. Now, you might guess as to who in Unitarian Universalism did not particularly like this expression of our principles. And this was part of a larger movement of women in Unitarian Universalism called the Women in Religion movement, right? It's in the same period of time that the principles were being revisited. Women in ministry went from 2% of ministry to, in the 1990s, more than 50%. So this was a really powerful time. So in the 1980s, as part of this movement, we changed the principles to the 7 principles that I grew up with, which talked about human beings in gender-inclusive ways, and also added, for the first time, care for the interdependent web of all existence. And that was how they were for about 40 years. We made minor changes here and there, but basically it was the same. The other major change was finalized just about 2 years ago at the General Assembly in June of 2024. And this new statement of our foundational commitments names them as shared values. With love at the center, the other values are justice, equity, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, and transformation. So we have once again affirmed our commitment to being willing to change, and that section of the bylaws still requires that we regularly revisit our shared values to see if they still reflect our current understanding of who we are and who we want to be. All right, even for us though, we don't want to be entirely caught up in the winds of change in any direction they might blow, right? Transformation is one of our values, but it is not our only value. We believe in changing with the times, but we also stand against some of the pulls of the world around us. For example, right now, as the federal government of the United States is heading in the direction of trampling and dismantling civil rights and liberties, our values of justice and equity are compelling us to resist this particular set of cultural changes. Similarly, we might embrace Zoom worship because we value transformation, but we might resist certain forms of social media or certain social media platforms which prioritize unloving interactions because we also value love as a central way of meeting the world. Author Adrienne Marie Brown talks about this in her book, Emergent Strategy, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds. So one of the elements of emergent strategy, as she defines it, is intentional adaptation. That is, we change as needed to respond to an ever-changing world, but we do it with intention. A couple of decades ago, one of the things that consultants, including the UUA staff, like me, although I wasn't one of them yet, often did with organizations and congregations was to help them create strategic plans. So this was often done in 5-year increments, and the organization or congregation would lay out a plan for what they would do in each of those 5 years to complete tasks that were aligned with goals, which were, ideally, at least aligned with the mission of the congregation or the organization. We get a lot fewer requests for strategic planning than we used to, and we respond somewhat differently to these requests when we do get them, because it is much harder to predict what the world will be like 5 years from now than it used to be. A framework which defines success as accomplishing a set of predetermined tasks every year for the next 5 years, and more to the point, which defines not doing that as failure, is not entirely helpful when we can neither predict nor control the conditions in and around the congregation over that 5 years. We never really could, but we could get closer in the past. So Adrian Murray Brown suggests a reframe from strategic plans to strategic intentions. That is, we know where we want to go, that's the mission. That's the point, the purpose. What are we trying to do together? That defines our intentions, our direction. And then we move toward that intention, and as we do, things shift. And then we shift in response. I always think about this in sailing metaphors because it just works. So we are going there. We are aiming at a destination. That is our mission or purpose. And we set sail. And then the winds and the currents do their thing and nudge us off course. So we correct by steering and changing the alignment of the sails. And we do that dance in small ways all the time. And sometimes we have to do it in really big ways when a storm comes through and we're wildly off. The current language of our shared values says that love is at the center of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. And I think that love is an excellent North Star to guide our voyages. Adrian Murray Brown also suggests that we consistently look for the next elegant step, which she talks about this way. She says, Gibran Rivera once articulated a question to me, what is the next most elegant step? She goes on, I love this question and use it to shape conversations all the time. Too often we come up with plans that don't take into account the fog on the horizon. Then we go off and the work doesn't happen, perhaps can't happen, and then we feel demoralized when our energy doesn't flow into action or desired outcomes. An elegant step, she says, is one that acknowledges what is known and unknown, and what the capacity of this group actually is. An elegant step allows humility, allows people to say, actually, we need to do some research, or actually, we need to talk to folks who are not in this room, or actually, we need a whole day to build this plan out into something realistic and attainable. In any conversation, she says, and I would say in any moment in life, there is a next elegant step, one that is possible and strategic based on who is taking it and where they are trying to go. Find it, and you cannot fail. Develop a strategic direction moving toward vision, determining appropriate tactics based on the horizon you can see, move forward with awareness, develop strategic bodies and minds to adapt intelligently as the horizon changes. That's the end of my quoting her for the moment. We cannot escape the fact of change. It is constant, the only lasting truth, but we can decide how to meet it. So we can decide to meet it with commitment and intention. And I think that's what we mean when we say that one of our values is transformation. It is not only acceptance of the fact of change as a part of life, but also a commitment to let ourselves be changed and respond to changes in ways that move us toward our other values rather than away from them. So let's go back to that example of the COVID pandemic. And as I said, almost all UU congregations responded by moving worship online really fast. It was quite something to watch from the region. Also, the set of things that we had questions about, like overnight, was a completely different set of questions, right? But eventually, once vaccines became available to everyone, and the risk was lowered for most people, congregations began worshiping in person again. But what's really interesting to me is that most congregations continue to offer remote access to worship, even now, years later. Some have continued Zoom access to worship in real time. Others post services online after the fact. Many congregations do both, as you do. Why? Why do we keep doing this even after conditions returned to something approximating what they were before 2020? I don't know the specifics of how you had this conversation in your congregation, but in talking to leaders of many congregations, this was mostly because during that year or so that we worshiped entirely online, we learned that for some people, this made our worship more accessible, or even accessible at all for the first time. We learned that we could include more people in our communities in more ways if we kept online options for worship. And now that we know how to do this, and we knew that it was possible, and a lot of us bought a lot of tech to make it even more possible, we wanted to continue to be as welcoming and inclusive as we could in this new way. In other words, we transformed from congregations that only worshiped in person to congregations who worship in ways that include lots of people who can't or don't want to attend in person for all kinds of reasons. Reverend Rachel initiated a time of change for your congregation when she let you know that she will be ending her ministry with you this summer. Your board is currently working on finding an interim minister who will partner with you for the next 2 years as you reflect on this ministry that is ending and prepare for a new longer-term partnership with a new minister. In this time of change, you will decide together how you navigate the ship of your congregation. What is your purpose, your mission, the direction you are sailing? Is it the same? What are you using to guide your way? What is your North Star? How will you respond to the waves and the wind as they shift? Now, some of these decisions will happen in official meetings with votes and minutes and all that stuff. But most of the choices about how to navigate this time of transition will happen in much smaller ways. Things like how you demonstrate trust and appreciation to the leaders who are at the helm in sometimes challenging waters. How you respond if the journey is making you anxious. Do you turn to each other for support and breathe through it together? Or do you blame each other for the discomfort of the uncertainty? There will be choices ahead that you may not all agree on in every detail. Almost certainly there will be some disagreement. That's what makes up community. When you disagree, will you meet each other with generosity and curiosity, or with judgment and unkind assumptions? Every time of change is an opportunity to learn to live our values more deeply, to practice generosity, justice, equity, pluralism, interdependence, and transformation, to love each other and the world more deeply and with more skill. And since the only lasting truth is change, we will never run out of opportunities to practice our values together. So may we meet the changes we encounter with integrity, with commitment, and most of all, with love. May it be so. Amen. So I don't know which microphone I'm using. All right. Our prayer today is a meditation that I learned from the Trauma Resource Institute, and it's called grounding, which is one of those words that means like a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people. But in this case, what we're going to do is bring your attention to where you are being held by gravity. So the chair, the floor under your feet, if you're at home, wherever you're sitting or standing or lying. If being in your body in this way is uncomfortable, you could instead look at how something else is being held by gravity. But just center your attention into that gentle pull. Rest your awareness in it for a moment. It may be true that the only lasting truth is change, but in the span of a human lifetime, the gravity of the earth that holds us always is something we can count on. So in times of anxiety or change or sorrow, we can bring our attention back to the pull of the earth that holds us always. I invite you to bring your attention back to this time and place together. Please remain seated to sing our meditation hymn, Ubi Caritas, number 1048 in the teal hymnal. Ubi Caritas et amor,
Ubi Caritas, Deus Ibi est. Ubi Caritas et amor, Ubi Caritas, Deus Ibi est. Ubi Caritas et amor, Ubi Caritas, Deus Ibi est. Ubi Caritas et amor, Ubi Caritas, Deus Ibi est.
Another world is possible. Each week, we collect an offering and we split it with an outside organization to help us remember that we can't make the world a better place on our own. During May, our congregation generously shares half of our offering basket with Ondanong Powwow. As we donate to this local powwow, we recognize and honor the indigenous peoples who stewarded the lands and rivers of Massachusetts for countless centuries before the arrival of settlers from other lands. Half of the money collected in our offering today supports the life of our congregation. The other half of the money will support the Ondanong Powwow. Please give generously today in the basket, by text, by check, or through our website. Please join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We're about to sing our closing song. You're welcome to stay right where you are and be held in the love of community, or you're welcome to rise and move into a circle around the outer aisle. Put your hands over your heart or hold out your hands to someone near you so that we can sing This Day We Come.
Changes abound around us, within us, between us, in our communities, our neighborhoods, and our beloved faith communities. Changes abound. May we each find the balance point we need as we move through our ever-changing world. The balance between the old and the new, between the known and the unknown, between the familiar and the perhaps bold and risky possibilities that may be there, waiting. Amen. We did it.